Hello and welcome to the Centre for Creative Health's In Conversation series. As part of the Hospital Research Foundation group, CCH works to improve the quality and experience of healthcare through art, music and design across a number of South Australian hospitals. This series highlights members of the community who assist CCH in presenting our arts and health programs and also allows us to focus on some of the amazing work these professionals do. My name is Fiona Borthwick and today we're speaking with Sue Ninham. Hello Sue, welcome.
Hi Fiona, thank you for having me. It's great.
No, thank you so much for joining us. This is fantastic. I guess we'll jump right into the questions and we'll start off with how would you best describe your art practice?
This is a really difficult one for me and it's the first question, but
it is
probably the hardest. I've written down, 4 words probably describe my art practice. That is that it's diverse, it's energetic, curious and joyful. And I guess if you were to expand on that, I could talk for hours, but just condensing it right down, that is how I would describe it.
No, that's a fantastic way of describing it. Yeah, you don't need to go into much more depth at all. It's
okay then.
Yeah, if you don't want to.
I'll just, I guess quickly, I think curious is the key word in all of that. So from a very early age, I was curious about the world I live in, and it's the best way I find that I can express that. And everything else flows on from that curiosity. And I guess for all artists, it should be connected very, very closely with who they are. And I guess, I'm a really curious person, trying to answer things, answer questions that are my questions, not anyone else's, but just trying to make sense of the world that I inhabit.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, and those questions, they answer your personal questions and curiosities, but I'm sure lots of people relate to that as well. And so it's really engaging practice for lots of people to draw on and enjoy as well. It's fantastic work that you create.
Thank you. I hope that, I think the positive feedback I get about my work, I don't get negative feedback. The worst thing for me as an artist is silence. If somebody looks at my work and they have nothing to say, they're absolutely silent, that for me is devastating. I'd actually rather somebody said something awful than silence. But mostly people who get my work find joy in it. It brings them joy. And for me, that is the greatest gift I have to give.
No, that's beautiful. Well put. Thanks, Sue.
Thanks.
So did you always want to be an artist? How did you get started?
Always. I mean, digging, I'm getting on now and digging really, really deep. When I think about this question, I realise that, I was hardwired from the very, very beginning. And my mum says to me that if ever I was complaining about being bored as a tiny tot, all she'd have to do is give me a piece of paper and a pencil, and I was happy for hours and hours. So it started really early. And then I did my undergraduate degree as an illustration designer at Underdale, a long time ago. And I did year 12 and I really didn't know what I wanted to be, an artist or a designer, graphic designer. And sat down again with my parents and they said, you really need to take the path of a graphic designer because you will make money. You will not make money as an artist.
Oh, yes.
And yes. And they were right. And so I went down that path and then I ran a business as an illustrator in Sydney for many years. And then I hit 40 after having 2 kids. And it was just like driving me nuts in the back of my brain, the what if. And now's the time. So I just really literally severed that career, shut my business down.
Wow.
And I knew that I would have to make that clean break. If I was going to give the visual art side of me a really red hot go, I had to shut the other thing down. Otherwise I would always be going back to it. And so that's what I did. And that's what I did. And then I just started I just started painting. I didn't really know what I was doing because I hadn't gone to art school, so I hadn't been trained properly. So I just taught myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
that's fantastic. Would have been a scary and really brave thing to do, just to stop that part of the illustration business side and just delve right into the visual art side. That's a very brave thing to do. It's not easy. A lot of people would have kept that as a bit of a backup and safety net, I suppose.
Yes, that might have been the sensible thing to do.
No.
I've never really thought of myself as being particularly sensible. All the decisions I make are gut feelings, and I knew that's. I didn't want to die wondering. I know that sounds really dramatic, but it's right forward. It's like, well, if I don't do this now, I probably won't be giving it enough time. Yeah. And then I shared a studio not long after that with the artist Chris Orchard, and he said to me, at that point he'd been doing it for 30 years, and he said something like, I'm paraphrasing, but he said something like, it's taken me 30 years to get to the point that you're looking at. And so I realized that starting at 40, I wasn't going to hit my strides until I was 70. So I still feel like I'm a fledgling. Yes.
Oh, I think that I'm not sure that ever goes away. From everyone I've spoken to, everyone feels like they're still learning and still finding new ways of engaging with their practice. And I don't know if that ever goes away, but no, it's a fantastic thing. And I'm very, it would have been very exciting just to put your whole heart and soul into that one thing that you really wanted to do.
It was. And because I'd been an illustrator, I'd always drawn realistically. So I'd worked in advertising and publishing, and I could draw plants, and if you gave me a bowl of apples to paint, I could do it.
Yeah.
So I knew also that if I was going to be an artist, I needed to make it clean. Yeah. Well, I wanted to make a clean break with that as well. And I'm a modernist, and so I thought, I'm going to paint abstraction, and I'm going to paint from the shoulder, not the wrist, because I'd always worked like this.
So
and so it was really bungee jumping. Like, if I'm going to do this, I'm just going to bungee jump, and that's what I did.
Fantastic. Well done. Well, I'm glad you did. Because your exhibition, The Dark Stones, is currently on display at the Royal Adelaide Hospital's Community Gallery. The artwork for this exhibition was created in response to time you spent in a small coastal fishing village in northwest Iceland earlier this year. Can you tell us a bit about this exhibition and how it connected to your artist residency?
Well, I could talk about it for a really long time, but I won't. Look, I guess I went, so I did this residency, and I'd been to Iceland before. I'd had a week there the year before, and I got there a little bit. The only other place that's had an effect on me like that is New York, and they couldn't be two more different places, but I guess trying to understand what it is about the two that they have in common, for me personally, it's the awe of it, the scale and the awe. And so I thought, I've got to come back to this place. And I'd been researching residencies there for about 5 years, and I'd pinpointed this one that I really wanted to do, which is really like far in the north, very, very remote, really beautiful, on a fjord, like just absolutely amazing. So that's what I did, and I had 2 months there. It was cut short slightly by COVID, unfortunately, but while I was there, I just immersed myself in experimental practice. And what emerged was what you can see in the exhibition is this central motif in my work, which is like a pile of rocks stacked on top of one another. And this just kept coming through while I was away. I was working with collage, I was working with paint, I was taking photos, I was using textiles, I made clothing out of found materials. I was really, really pushing the boundaries for me to sap as much of it as I could, you know. And then I got back to Australia and I retreated to the studio and started to extend on the things that I'd been doing there, mostly collage.
Yeah.
And this shape just kept coming up all the time.
Wow.
And so I went with it. I thought, well, it's clearly, I think because I'd done the residency and I'd been so isolated and immersed, my mind was really, really open. And instead of looking at that and going, oh, what's that? Oh, you know, whoa. I went, whoa,
yes,
okay. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
I just thought, I'm going to go with this. And that's where the exhibition, that's the connection to the residency, whatever that motif is. And I have theories, my own personal theories about what that is. It underpins the works in the exhibition at the hospital.
Yeah, no, fantastic. You're right. You do see that motif through all the works, and they're beautiful, beautiful works that are on display at the moment. And you're welcome to let us into what your theory is around those if you like, but you don't feel like you have to if you don't want to.
No, I would love to. I do tend to, if people come to me, because it's abstraction, people often come and say, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And I'm always reluctant to answer that question. I tend to put it back to what does it mean to you?
Yeah.
Because I'm really interested as an artist to find out what they see in it. But in this particular case, I think because this is quite seminal for me, is that the right word? I don't know, I might be using big words that I don't understand the meaning of, but it actually, okay, because I'd never ever had the opportunity to go somewhere completely away from all my responsibilities and just make art. And that's what Iceland was for me. And so I'm really open to sharing what I think that means, because I reckon that this is a real turning point for me. It really, really feels like a shift on the back of a lot of personal anguish and pain as well.
Yeah.
And yes, I think the stack of rocks is me.
Oh, fabulous.
Me.
Yes.
And if you notice the exhibition, all the titles for the works start with the sentinel, the transformation, the rocks are me.
Yeah.
They are the person I am now on the back of having this incredible experience. Feels like lots of things have shifted, unlocked, opened up. And I look at, sometimes in some of the paintings, the rocks look vulnerable. In some of the paintings, the rocks stand tall and strong and impenetrable.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, and that is how I am right now. I'm all of those things, but I feel as if the world is swirling around me, and this is a bit connected to COVID as well, because my journey home from Iceland was so traumatic, because it was just it was swirling around me in Europe, and getting home was very difficult and very traumatic.
Because you came home right at the beginning, didn't you? Yeah.
March. And it really felt like doors were shutting down behind me. And I felt like this entity that was just moving through that, and a bit like Keanu in The Matrix. Like I was like that. That's what it felt like.
Yeah, no, I can relate. Yeah, definitely.
And then I got home and I had to go into isolation. My kids moved out of the house and I had 2 weeks here on my own. And the stillness was perfect on the back of all that. I was able to then keep making my art. Yeah. It was a blessing. And in the middle of it, I just felt like there was this maelstrom and I was at the centre of it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It's okay.
No, thank you so much for sharing that, because I think so many people can probably relate to what you're describing wherever their experience happened. It's a unique experience, but it's something that I think a lot of people have felt in a lot of levels around this time and during this period particularly. It's yes, absolutely, and it's really important to share, to be able to share it, and I thank you for that. Thank you. The Dark Stones reflects on themes of isolation, introspection, transformation, healing. What led you to investigate these ideas? I think we probably touched on it a little bit already, but can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, like I said, I'd gone through this really, really personal upheaval, really, really painful, difficult turning point in my life in end of 2007, nearly 3 years ago now.
Yeah.
And on the back of that, I had so much that I had to kind of put right in a practical sense, that my art, you know, and I lost my home, I lost my studio, my marriage fell apart. Like, it was just one of those moments that happens to people where, and so art had to be put on the back burner.
Yeah.
And then I put in place this residency because I knew, I didn't know, but I felt that if I didn't go and do this thing for myself, I was in danger of being subsumed completely by the practicalities of life.
Yeah.
That it could just take over and I could lose that part of myself quite easily. And so I thought, I need to give this to myself. I applied for grants and I didn't get them. And I just thought, I have to do this thing. I've got to fund it myself. So I worked like a crazy banshee woman as a teacher, saved as much money as I could possibly get together, and I went.
Yeah.
And I say a gift to myself because it really was. And so that's it, really. Is that the answer to the question?
No,
I think it
absolutely.
is.
I mean,
myself.
Absolutely. I mean, I think a lot of people and yourself, your practice is a journey to find answers for yourself, and this probably was a bit of a journey to try and regain that balance in your life and bring back those things that made you happy and who you are, and kind of just kind of reclaiming that balance and reclaiming yourself. And I think that makes perfect sense.
Thank you. It's risky. You know, we talked about, you said to me I was brave because I changed careers.
Yeah.
This was also brave. And just before I left, I felt foolhardy. Like I was saying to people, I've got to pull out. This is crazy. I've got no work. This is pre-COVID even.
Yeah.
I've got nothing to come back to.
Yeah.
You know,
I
need
scary,
to be a sensible woman. I need to
no.
be sensible. This is crazy in the coconut. And all the people who are really dearest to me, including my children, who, you know, could have been completely justified in saying to me, Mum, you really shouldn't go, it's really, really crazy, said go. And and now I am so, so grateful that I did.
Yeah. No, good. I'm so glad. I can imagine it would have been a terrifying prospect to leap into the residency, but it sounds like it was such a great experience, and you've come out the other side feeling, you know, with a bit more balance in your world.
It's a very good word. Thank you. Balance is perfect. Well, balanced rocks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So as I said before, I think many of us can relate to the themes and what you're talking about in your work, particularly during this strange time we find ourselves in now, making this a really timely exhibition to show in connection with Mental Health Week, which was earlier this month. how important is the process of art making to you, and how does it impact your own well-being? I know we've touched on this a bit more earlier, but yeah, is the process of art making important, or is just the outcome of creating something what drives you?
Whoa, both probably.
Yeah.
The process and the outcome. The latter to a lesser degree. Certainly
Yeah.
the process is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because a lot of artists say that they have blockages, that, you know, it's a lot of artists have fear around the process. And I've got friends who are really very talented who can go for years without making anything, and they say, how do you do it? You're so, you know, you're always energized, you're so prolific. And we're all really, really different. And fear, I think, for artists is at the center of everything we do.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, no.
And I have the kind of personality who, you know, and I have a lot of fear in me, but when it rears itself, I go, you know, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, let's get on top of this. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna battle this thing.
Yeah.
And that is all connected with my mental health, for sure.
Yeah.
So I just keep doing it. I just am compelled to keep doing it because it brings me joy, but also it's like an antidote to the fear.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
It's all mixed in. It's all mixed in together, and I guess there's a part of my personality that's quite tenacious and defiant, and I will. Oh, there it is. I'm gonna not triumph, but I'm going to work through it. It's in the working that I'm able to I find I come out the other side. Yeah. And then the outcome is the tricky part for me, I think, because then I exhibit it and it is then laying bare the innards.
Oh, yes. The exhibiting can be quite scary as well. You know, this is, especially when you create work that's very personal and very much about yourself. You're laying, you feel you're very vulnerable because you're exposing all that to the world, and once again, it's a very brave thing to do, and and I completely understand using the process of art making as a way of confronting and kind of overcoming those fears is a really valuable tool.
It is. Not for all artists, but it is for me.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's good. That's fantastic.
Keeps me sane, Fiona.
Yes. We all need that. Especially more often than others at the moment, but that's okay.
Yes, we live in challenging times for sure.
Yeah. So how do you think your work resonates in a healthcare setting like the Royal Adelaide Hospital? What does it mean to you?
I think what we've just talked about kind of answers that question as well. The Royal Adelaide Hospital has a special place in my heart because when it was being built, the integrated art project was at the core of all of that. And I was, one attender to have permanent art piece.
In the Cancer Day Centre there, isn't it? Yeah.
So
a beautiful piece.
Thank you. So that's really lovely for me because there's a part of me embedded in the hospital, and hopefully that brings joy to people because that was the whole point of that as well.
Absolutely.
So, And what I really love about the hospital's approach to art is that it's scattered all the way through as permanent thing, but then also the work that you're doing, which is a rotational thing, means that the hospital, anyone who goes to the hospital, whether they're a visitor or they're there as a patient, is immersed in healing art, which I think is just such a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so visionary of the hospital to sort of say from the get-go, we're going to plan this and we're going to integrate it from the start all the way through, and we're going to keep that momentum going. And so there'll be generations of people who will have art at the core of their healing experience.
Absolutely.
Physical and mental healing experience, which is really lovely.
It is fantastic. It kind of brings a bit of humanity to the space and a bit of heart to the clinical space, which is beautiful. Yeah, absolutely.
It is beautiful. It was an opportunity that was seized upon and done really well. I think it's great, and the work that you're still doing with it is excellent. So
thank you very
much. Great to be a part of it.
Yes, we're so glad you are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.
So I suppose more generally, what are your thoughts on the role of arts and health, especially during the times we are now, but in more general terms? We've touched on the importance of it, I suppose, but do you think yes, what are your thoughts?
When you say general, what do you mean?
So more generally, within the hospital setting, like we touched on, the Royal Adelaide has art embedded into their building and things like that, and it creates a healing environment in that space. How important do you think it is to have that in those healthcare settings, and also have art therapy, and how do you think that kind of contributes to healthcare? Do you think it's a really important part of it, or
I think it's important for anybody who inhabits that space, whether they're doctors, nurses, patients, visitors. I mean, on a really, really simple level, just colour, just the power of colour to lift people's emotions, and to, hospitals can be quite clinical places, places where there can be a lot of pain and sadness, and I think that art, just on that pure level of colour and movement, whether it be still movement or energised movement, it does that kind of work, I think. Like you were saying, humanises those spaces, which can be quite clinical.
Yeah, really important to be able to create kind of a safe, warm, welcoming space for people to work through those things.
Yeah, and it's a distraction as well.
Absolutely, yeah.
And that was the purpose of the piece of art there were 5 pieces of art that I put into the Cancer Day unit.
Yeah.
That was the brief as well, that the work was meant to function as a world people could disappear into, to take their minds away from whatever they were going through that might be unpleasant. So it's like they're like windows to another world, the artist's world.
Yeah, absolutely, because I can imagine waiting for however long people need to wait in waiting rooms and just being lost in their own thoughts, but having an artwork around or something like that can take them away from those stresses for momentarily and give them a bit of respite.
And the irony of that is that, like, the word fear when I was just listening to you talk, then the word fear pops up again, and it's like this cyclical thing, the artist me paints from a place of fear, expresses that, then that connection can come the other way, that someone gazing into that who is feeling fear, maybe on a really subliminal level, there's there's almost a meeting of minds, an empathy that can occur.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a conversation that happens between creator and viewer, definitely, I think. And yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
well
we're getting
put. Well put. Well done. No, I like that.
Thank you. I got the giggles now.
Yeah, that's good. No, not all that's staying in. So how have you adapted or moved forward with your arts practice as the recent restrictions have started to ease, but also how things are still a little bit different at the moment in terms of COVID restrictions? How have you moved forward and kept creating your work?
I haven't done anything for a couple of weeks. I have to be honest.
Deserve a break, I think.
In terms of being in my studio, certainly. But other things, I'm doing other things. So at the moment, I'm artist in residence at the Adelaide Botanic High School. Oh, so I'm working with students there to create a sculptural work that will be erected inside the atrium at the school. So that, you know, in that capacity, I've kind of stepped out a bit as restrictions have eased, and I've got my exhibition hung in the hospital. Look, I just feel like I've just got to put in, I've got to just, at the moment, I'm just grabbing every opportunity that comes my way. So I'm doing I am actually a qualified school teacher, so I'm doing a little bit of that. But also, I've applied for a couple of residencies and just putting myself out there as much as I can, because there's this fear that, you know, we don't know where we're going. It could all change.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we saw in Melbourne, it could change so quickly. Yeah. We're only one person away from everything changing in this state. Yeah. So I'm going for it, Fiona.
Yeah,
I'm just
good.
I'm going to apply for that. I'm going to apply for that, this, that, that. And, you know, you might apply for 10 things and only one thing takes hold, but I think that's the life of an artist, isn't it? Or for some of us, some people seem to apply for everything and they get everything they get.
Lucky humans they are.
Let's not talk about that.
No, and then, but that's not the common. It's more common to apply and only
So that's where the resilience helps.
Yes, yes.
And I just feel like at the moment I've got nothing to lose and everything to gain by just. I mean, I am. I'm not. When I say I'm applying for everything, I am. I am picking and choosing. Yeah. I'm not. Yeah. You know, I'm not applying for things that obviously aren't of interest to me. But and so I'm making, but I'm not in my studio at the moment. Yeah. I'm out in the world.
Yes. Well, that's fantastic. Yeah. I think it's. Yeah. I think engaging with what's out there is a really important part of the process. And yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Good luck with the residencies you've applied for.
Thanks.
Fingers crossed. I'm all good vibes going to you. Hopefully you get them.
Thanks, Fiona.
You're welcome. So we're nearly to the end of our conversation. Just a couple more questions to go.
Okay.
But I was just wondering if you can speak briefly about the work of another artist or community group that's out there that's grabbing all the things and doing good things at the moment.
Okay, I can. I'm involved in an initiative started by the artist Julie Patterson. I don't know if you know her. She's in New South Wales.
Yep.
She started years ago. She has a company called Cloth. So she does silk screen fabric runs and furniture upholstery and beautiful, beautiful work. Anyway, I don't know how many weeks ago it must be. I've kind of been doing this thing every week, but I can't remember how long it's been going for. It's an Instagram initiative called Every 7 Days 2020.
Okay.
And every 7 days we are asked or invited. She presents a theme. So it could be, what was last week? X marks the spot was last week. Another theme has been balance.
Yeah.
So for those 7 days, artists are invited to post an ephemeral artwork. So you have to go out into the world. I mean, those people who are in isolation, obviously, they have to try and source from within their small world.
Yeah.
But for me personally, because I swim and I go to the beach a lot, I've been focusing on the beach and trying to find this thing on the beach. So it has to be ephemeral. You can't just take a picture of something. You have to actually create an artwork and then photograph it and then post it. She describes it as impermanent art practice for everyone, and it's just grown over the last few weeks. It's just grown and grown and grown. People from all around the world are now posting. It's really, really, it's such a beautiful, beautiful idea. And for me personally, it's been great because there have been a few weeks where I have maybe lacked a little bit of motivation or have been feeling lonely or whatever. And we are lucky in South Australia because we can actually go out. And so, I go, I've got to do my Every 7 Days 2020 this week. Oh, God, I mustn't miss it. And so I go out. And then I'm making art.
It gives you that purpose and gives you that connection with all other people as well, which I imagine is really important for people that are in isolation at the moment.
I mean, people are doing things in their kitchen, they're cooking their dinner and they're making an artwork out of something. So it's keeping people focused, connected. It's a brilliant idea. So there you go.
Fantastic. Oh, I saw some of your pictures on Instagram with your beach little creations. I noticed there was some rocks in those too. So you kept with the rock motifs. Yep.
Can't help myself.
They're fantastic. It's great. I love it. Yeah.
Thank you.
No, that's good. Well done. So that's a great project and a great way for people to stay connected during these times. So well done.
Thanks.
Last question. What do you love most about being an artist and presenting work within the community? Big question.
The most.
Yes. Well, you can pick a few things if you like.
So it's really about art and the community. I guess, like we said at the beginning, it's the possibility that what I do resonates for even just one person. Like, I'm not interested in necessarily setting the world on fire. That would be great, but it's not my motivation. The joy that comes back to me if somebody says, your work brings me joy. God, I've been blah, 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 and now I've slowed right down, which I think in itself is the answer. Like, it's such a big question. But,
it is. But being able to reach that one, like even that one person, to connect with that one person so that they, just have that engagement and inspiration for that one person is kind of a really important driver. Yeah,
it is. It is. It's not why I do it. It's a lovely outcome. And I guess for me, I have this strong desire to be understood as well. I don't know where that comes from, but if
I think it's a very human thing.
Is it?
Yeah. It's a very human thing. We all want someone to understand what we're talking about. We've all got our own crazy, and if you can at least find that one person that can go, I get it, that's okay. Yeah.
It's only occurring to me as we're having this conversation that I really want to be understood.
Yeah. Yes.
So I don't feel nutty.
Well, I don't think you're nutty at all. I think you're fantastic.
Thanks. It's probably not the right thing to be saying when,
No, it's perfect. No, it's perfect. I think a lot of people can relate to that, and a lot of people feel that way. We all feel like awkward and crazy and in our own ways. And if we have someone that can go, I get that, you're not crazy, it makes a huge difference. Makes you feel like you're not alone.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we keep coming full circle.
Yeah.
The aloneness. It's not loneliness, it's aloneness.
Yes. Yeah.
And
absolutely.
yeah. That's
Yeah.
great. What a nice point to finish on.
It is. Thank you. And thank you so much for sharing all that. That was such a wonderful, so wonderful to talk about you and your practice and how it relates to, all the big things about how we feel and experience our world. And thank you so much for being so generous about that.
Oh, thank you for providing a space where I feel safe to talk about such things.
You are very welcome.
Really lovely. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
We can do it again sometime. It's great.
I feel emotional now. Thanks, Fiona.
Thank you. And that brings us to the end, unfortunately, but we'll probably pick this up at a later time. But thank you, Sue, and everyone else for joining us today. If you have any questions, or if you're looking for further information about the Centre for Creative Health's programs or our In Conversation series, check out our website and social media platforms. But for now, that's all from us. So thank you and goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.